right, everybody, welcome back to the Move podcast. Well, I've been lying. We're not doing every year, and we're not totally going in chronological order. Well, sort of. But I guess we're just going to skip 2002. Quite frankly, I don't remember anything about 2002 from the bike race. I remember other things in the year. So, yeah, nothing there. But we're going to go ahead and fast forward to 2003. We all know what happened there, or at least the people who lived it and lived through it with us. Some exciting moments. So we'll recap the stage in the gap. Obviously, the Beloki's crash. Might even have a special guest. Can't imagine who that would be. And then the stage to Luzard Den when that little punk-ass kid jumped out with the bag. I'm kidding. That was 100% my fault.
You should find that guy.
Well, it'd be amazing.
He's like, how old now? He's like
that's
25.
He's probably 50. That shows you how old we are. I mean, that was 17 years ago. But yeah, totally. We'll get into that when we get to that point. But as the audience probably knows, our partner in this the seven shows, the best of the Blue Train is the great PowerDot. I'm a huge fan. I had mine somewhere. Was sitting right here. Here we go, baby. Keeps me moving. Of course, I'm not a 21-year-old fucking badass like Michael Andrew. I'm an old man, but going way back, my first sport, my first love, and still something that I do as passionately and as often as I can is swim. Mm-hmm. And so our guest for the next 10 minutes or so is Michael Andrew, who I've actually followed this story because I'll read any swimming story. And growing up, the way I grew up swimming, age group swimming, I started actually late. Michael started at the age of 7.
Sir.
I started sort of 12. Age group swimming was hundreds of kids in the pool. Lanes were stacked. We actually had a great team in Plano called the City of Plano Swimmers, coached by the great Chris McCurdy, but it was traditional age group swimming. And so as I started reading articles about you, Michael, and you and your dad was your coach or is your coach, mm-hmm. and this concept of training alone and at a pool at your house, I was like, wait a minute, how does that work? Because I sort of fed off the other kids. I was a distance swimmer, so I was in the D lane. Right. And for you people sitting at home, the D lane is the people that swim distance.
I do not swim distance at all.
Yeah. And so I'm like, how do they do that when there's nobody else around? And I've actually seen videos and pictures. It's just a 1-lane pool, at least the ones I saw.
Yeah, no, we used to be, and it's weird. It's changed now because we aren't in Kansas anymore, but we had our own pool, backyard, everything. It was crazy.
How do you stay motivated when there's no other, you were finding greatness and that would have been, I'm sure, whether it's you or Phelps or whoever, it's fun to beat up on your friends and beat up on your teammates. How do you stay motivated like that?
Well, it was interesting. One, and I think you understand this too, at being an elite athlete, is we always have this internal desire to win. And I was always raised in a very competitive way. Whether it was playing football in the backyard, running around with the family, I always wanted to win. And so that was instilled in me at a young age. And so I brought that into the pool. Naturally, I fell in love with the water. It was comfortable. Like I knew this was a gifting of mine. And when it came time to race, I would do everything at what there was to be the best and be the first to the wall. And then as we got older, it became a family ordeal where we were like, okay, so we don't want to do this through the status quo. We want to understand why our body or how our body functions. And first of all, like, what do we need to do in order to achieve these things?
And it was, I think, and we were kids and I swam up until I was about 15 or 16. We were swimming a lot. We'd do 2-a-days, the early session before school would be 4,000 to 5,000 yards. We mostly swam indoor short course yards. And, night we'd do 8,000 to 10,000, so it's a lot. I mean, when people think about that and just for y'all at home, I mean, that's like 8 or 9 miles of swimming.
That's crazy. So here for reference, in terms of what I swim, in like our heavy season, even I'll never really go over 3,500 yards of practice. And that's pretty long for me even. So like right now we're doing 60 25s in a session and we're calling it quits there. But the difference is a lot of the yardage and the efforts we're putting in are super specific to the way that we will race. You know, just like our brain functions, we code all these movements. And so the idea is being able to prepare our body so that when we jump in the pool, it just happens automatically.
All the kids in America are like, wait a minute, 3,500 yards. And I'm swimming.
Well, and the craziest thing is people make fun of us for it without really understanding how our body works. And they look at it and they're like, oh, like this looks easy. I could do a bunch of 25s until you get in the pool and do it with me. I've had buddies come and train with me and, you know, they can't finish the set before they're throwing up because over the decade that I've been training, or more than a decade now that I've been training this way, your body adapts to it. And so for me, it may be easy, but it's a pretty brutal way of training.
And for those, again, at home, a 25 is one length of the pool. So 60 25s. I mean, that's how swimming works. If you know, a typical set, just call it 10 100. So that's 4 lengths, 60 25s. Now I'm curious. So is this, I mean, we're staying in the pool, or are these all from a dive, or is, how intense? What's the interval?
Right. So it changes from event to event. So typically when I plan a session, it's mostly based off of a competition I'm getting ready for. And so say in a weekend, I've got 5 races. First day is 100 fly, 100 back. Second day is 50 free, 2 IM, and another 100. Throughout the week, I'll try and plan my sessions to mimic that weekend of racing so that I'm conditioning myself to that order of events and then also those distances. Because of the way our brain codes movement, we want to be as repetitive as possible. So my first morning swims will typically be like my 3 100 pace sets that I'm getting ready for. So it'll be like fly and then back or whatever the order is. And that way, you know, just pretty simply our body gets ready for it. But it also, the principle between training for 100 freestyle or a 200 freestyle, it's the same. So when we speak about 25s, if we're training for 100, we're doing 25s at 100 pace. If we're training for a 200, we're doing 50s at 200 pace. So it's that same like 1/4 of the race at the pace you're holding. And it kind of goes on even for distance events and endurance. Like I used to swim the 400 IM, broke the national record when I was younger, and it was all through race-based training. Obviously, you know, your repetitions and your distances and your efforts and the time that you hold has to increase with it, but the principle remains across the board.
And you're still swimming, is that twice a day or once a day? Or it depends.
So we'll double 3, like in our regular schedule. Right now we're just singling, but we will double 3 times a week and then singles the rest and the Sundays off.
And so what happened when you got out of or graduated high school? I mean, you know how this works. I mean, if you're one of the best swimmers in the world when you're in high school, then everybody lines up. University of Texas, USC, Florida, you know, it's UCLA, whatever, Stanford. It's endless, right? And so how did you just tell these guys to go pound sand?
No, quite the opposite, actually. I wouldn't say opposite. We never really even spoke with them. And I actually never even really received offers because by the time I was 14, I had signed my first endorsement. It was a small deal with a protein company. And at that moment, I had to give up high school swimming and NCAA swimming. So once you accept money or anything like that, it's the same rule across the board.
Right.
And, you know, I think schools just knew I wasn't going to do it. And I was very outspoken, very vocal about it. My parents are both born and raised South African. And so when we came to the US and we went through this whole journey, we viewed the system of sport and like this trajectory very differently. We didn't think, you know, you got a club, high school swimming, college, and then maybe if you're not destroyed by all the brutal yardage from a university program, then go pro. We just thought, you know what, if we're doing well and we love the sport and the company wants to support us, let's go for it.
Well, and the brutal part, I think you were referring to the physical part. I tell people all the time, you know, the mental fallout from growing up swimming. I mean, people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, think about it, dude. This kid, guy or gal, it doesn't matter, is staring at a black line for, you know, I don't know, 3 hours a day for years and years and years, you just can't, it's hard to come out of that normal. I mean, the PTSD is enormous. And look, we've seen swimmers struggle with the afterlife, let's call it, retirement. It can only be that. I mean, it's grueling. And I think it's fascinating the way y'all have been able to just flip it on its head.
I appreciate that. It's really interesting looking at it psychologically too, because you see athletes who have a tough time too, just dealing with the pressure that comes with the performance when you start to do well and stuff like that, and juggling it all. I'm super blessed to, I've had my family along this entire journey, and because of the way I train, I was able to have a life outside of the pool. So I could still have the freedom to go hang out with friends. I could do other sports like cycling. I was active. I surf every day now. Like, there's so many things that I'm able to experience. And two, obviously I travel a lot. So I'm always interacting with new people and things like that. But we definitely had a very, very different way about it.
I'm telling you, all these swimmer kids and their parents and the coaches are like, oh no, this guy, it's just so different. And I'm maybe a little too inside baseball because I grew up doing it. And so I know what it meant. I know, and I know what it meant for parents, the early morning practices when the kids 13, 14, swim meets all over the country. It's a hustle.
No, it is. It's a huge sacrifice. But you see that in every sport. I think too, you got to understand, and this firsthand, is in order to go places with your sport, you're going to have to make some pretty big sacrifices. But the hard thing is finding the balance inside that.
Right. So what happened? So you guys got, obviously everybody's talking about flipping it on its head. I mean, the coronavirus has flipped the entire world. And whether it's the global economy, just traditional workplaces, sporting events, and of course every 4 years is the Summer Olympics, and of course the Winter Olympics, but not this year. And so everything postponed, either canceled or postponed. By the way, the talk of even canceling the Summer Olympics, I will lose my fucking mind. I promise you. You think I'm crazy now?
You won't be the only one losing your mind. That's for sure.
This is it cannot happen. But so, and again, I'd nerd out on swimming, and watch it. That's all I watch really, religiously.
It's the most amazing sport. Every 4 years, everybody's eyes are on it. It's incredible. Everybody wonders why and how we do it.
Yeah. So how big of an audible or a hiccup was that for you in your prepping for we were talking before we came on, just the trials,
right?
Which, by the way, is it still like in the middle of fucking nowhere where they like
Omaha, Nebraska?
It's in, I mean,
yep.
I'm like, wait a second, what? We're going to build a pool in Omaha, and every year in a stadium.
Yeah. Basketball stadium there.
It's amazing. I think it's weird, but it's it's amazing. But, how big for you guys, that must be, obviously you can pull back and then get going again, but damn, that must have been.
I think, so I was speaking with a friend of mine, Mel Stewart, gold medalist back in the day. And he brought up a really good point. And he basically said, from the outside looking in, he sees me, Michelangelo, as the only athlete that is not affected by this. And it's interesting because as much as it sucked and we had to really replan and readjust all of our schedules and our training routine and, deal with things as it came, I see it as a huge blessing or an opportunity to be stronger. So for me, I'm 21 years old. A lot of my competitors that I'm going into this next games are on the older end. And if anything, this is going to make it harder for them and easier for myself.
Right.
I hate saying that, but that's the competitor in me, knowing like, okay, like I have another year to get stronger. And so much growth is going to happen in this next year. And I already am adding new things that I wouldn't have had time to add before this last trials, like lifting, cycling, a whole bunch of other stuff that's really going to help me in the long run. But, it is a bummer because I think going into it, we were really, really, really on track to make the team and do really well at the games. But at the same time, I've grown up my whole life with this lesson that I've learned through mentors, and by watching other athletes, that at the be all end all, swimming is a gift, something that brings me joy and draws me closer to others, but it doesn't define who I am. So whether we go to a games and win a medal or not, it's, life goes on. And I think that's what gives me the opportunity and the ability just to take such a huge blow like this and keep running with it. So
speaking of older guys, and again, I'm going to stop saying it after this, but I follow swimming a lot. And so the whole Lochte story, I'm not sure where I land on this whole thing, but I got to say, because he seems really both equal parts sweet, equal parts really goofy. But I love the fact that the guy, in all his goofiness, and I'm assuming he's still hammering on the straight and narrow, but this guy cleans up his life, gets sober, still swimming. Yeah. And I was a Phelps guy, just full admission, but I was like, I don't know about this Lochte dude. And all this shit, and he's not young, and I'm like, I'm going to cheer. I am going to be on the fucking couch, standing up, jumping up and down, cheering for this guy. Right. Can he make it another year?
I think he can. I think out of all the old guys, he's definitely he's been there before. I think what's in his favor is experience, of course. Like he has that level of knowing what it takes to make a team and win a medal because he's been there. Mm-hmm. And he has that over all the young guys. I do think it's going to be harder, as the year goes on. But I hope for him to make the team. I love Ryan. I've gotten to hang out with him. I've been on trips with him. He's a cool guy. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy and there's some things that have happened in the past, but I think it's cool to see that he's, not come to his senses, but just back on that right track.
Yeah, no, he's found it. He's found his
beautiful family, and it's good. It's good to see, and it's the same with Phelps. Like I love being able to follow his family and see how he's doing, even outside of the sport. But at the same time, I'm not going to just let him beat me. And same with these young guys. So it's going to be a dogfight for sure.
Well, no, come on. We know that. I mean, come on, man.
You have to be very ready.
Yeah, no, we know that. We know. Let's talk about PowerDot before we let you run. Obviously both of us are big fans. We love the company. I use it almost on a daily basis. I love it so much. I've invested in the company, but how has that come into play? And again, I think and I'd love to talk to you in 10 years, assuming you're still doing this, but every year going forward, it's just going to be a bigger and bigger part of your life as the body it just naturally, you get old, man.
Absolutely.
What's your sort of your go-to with PowerDot?
Yeah. So, for me, I'm full on. I agree 100%. The recovery side of it is just as important as the training. My go-to, are you talking in terms of how I just use the product?
Yeah. We can break it down from there.
I even just, for example, my favorite, and I've been having this on the entire interview. I don't know if you can see it, but I've been cycling a little more. And so
wait a second. You're not wearing your Speedo right now, are you?
No, I got
okay, good. All right. Just checking. Yeah. The guy's a swimmer, folks. So just
taking this opportunity to show off my legs. I even shave cycling. But no, I stick mostly to quads, chests, and shoulders. Being a swimmer, venturing into cycling, it's my quads that are typically hurting. And then obviously it's always about protecting the shoulders, especially when lifting now that we're kind of picking that side up. I want to be able to add strength, but I want to be mobile in the water. And PowerDot's been giving me the ability to just slap this on. I can play video games. I can chill, I can watch movies, whatever. And it's active recovery without having to be active. And I think that's,
and so portable. That's what we say. I mean, you could be on a plane, right? You could be driving down the road. You could be watching a movie at home. You could be in the trainer's office. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just damn easy.
What's so funny too is, as simple as it may seem, it's fun to watch. Even if I'm at a friend's house and I put my PowerDot on, they're like, what? Your muscles are spazzing out. It's cool. It's an interesting way to recover.
Wait till you have kids. I tell you, I put that bad boy on and just crank it up, and the kids, they run. They think that maybe they like it. They're like, my dad is tweaking out. It's always gets.
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, and we've been experimenting with a lot of different applications too. So I use it a lot for extended recovery, but what I've really enjoyed, and this is what we were doing when we were racing. So earlier in the year in March, I swam fastest 200 IM of my life by over a second. I was top 4 in the world at the time. And what we were doing, this was our first time trying it, is we would actually stimulate the muscle for like 5 minutes before racing. Typically, like we'd go glutes, lower back, and a little bit like in the traps. And I mean, I don't know if that was the what kind of, I don't know, what's the pivot in that success, but I know my muscles felt good. So there's a lot of really cool things you can try around with this.
Well, as a fan, I'm just going to let them take credit. I mean, that second, by the way, folks, a second in swimming, I mean, that you may as well get in your car and start driving. I mean, second's huge, right? I mean, that's big.
Yeah.
That's between first and fifth sometimes. So it's huge.
Big time. No, it is. It's really vital.
Well, man, this has been awesome. I can't wait to, my problem, I promise I'll just quit geeking out on swimming, but I swim a lot more, but we up here in Colorado, 8,000 feet, dude, the flip turns, it is the worst. I'm like, this is terrible. It is.
That's why I never go to the Olympic Training Center anymore. I get altitude sickness so quickly, especially when I train.
Swimming's hard enough. I mean, you're holding your breath and then throwing 8,000 feet and you're just like, dude. But anyhow, huge fan. Certainly, we're all pulling for you, brother. And go make us proud. And this is... But last question. No, I promise. I promise. I'm going to quit nerding out. But say the games happen 2021. I mean, you're not done. You want to keep swimming.
Oh no, I'm just getting started. I feel like my career in the last 2 years is like just getting started.
Okay, so folks, just so you know, you heard it here. Okay, and this is when you're sitting on home watching. But swimming, on the men's and women's sides, I just think it's the embodiment of an Olympic athlete. Like you see, that's why I hated they had this era where they wore all these fucking like frog suits, seal suits, whatever. And I was like, get out! You guys are rocked. I mean, you guys are like just buffed. I'm like, come on! I love it. I promise I'm done geeking out. But
we need to swim together sometime.
Yeah, I'll swim with you anytime.
I love that.
Yeah, you better give me some fins and a shorter pool. And I don't think I could, if we swam a 25 and I had fins on, which by the way, too, folks, is a huge benefit. I could not take, you would just kick my ass. But how big are your feet?
I watched your 30 for 30. I feel like your swim looks pretty good. I think you could stay with me for a little bit.
You know what? Let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, man. Good luck to you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Anyways, to our listeners, 20% off. Go to PowerDot.com/themove. Also, and I think this is one of the coolest things, Eric, one of the founders, or the founder, his wife works for Feeding San Diego and Feeding America. So they're providing 40 meals for every PowerDot duo sold. That's amazing. I mean, these are crazy times. Let's help out. PowerDot.com/themove. Today's show also brought to you by, I brought a different color today. I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. I mean, the neon Matador. George, did you ever think you'd see me in neon again? I rocked neon in the 80s when I did tries. What did you think?
I would not expect you to be wearing neon, but those glasses do look cool.
They're amazing. There's the best lens out there. What's also my buddy Tim Kennedy, who's like one of the most badass persons ever, special forces, et cetera, he's just obsessed, doing a ton of work with them, especially on the tactical stuff. Great guys and gals out of Austin, Texas, created for athletes, by athletes. Totally legit. 25% off for all of our listeners and viewers. Go to Roka, ROKA.com, Roka.com. And we're the move, of course. One other thing I did see on Instagram, they did a special edition for Sunweb. Did you guys see this? It's pretty. I mean, I'm not trying to promote any team. We're neutral, of course. But the special special edition they did for Sunweb is super dope looking. I think you should check it out. Go to Roka.com. And update on my readers 2.0s. Embarrassing to say. Today's episode is also brought to you by Waterloo Sparkling Water. And I mean, well, y'all know we only talk about companies that we love. That's just a fact. We're not taking money from people and things and ideas that we don't love. This stuff right here, it's Austin-based crew. I've fallen in love with the brand. Actually, they're right down the street from the We Do World headquarters. And they are rocking. I heard the other day, guys, that about a year ago nationally, the awareness around Waterloo was around 3%. It's now up approaching 25%. They are coming with a heat of 1,000 suns. But this isn't just your regular sparkling water, not to mention that. But they also have my favorite, black cherry. I'm just going to show you all my favorites. That's the deal. I love grape and grapefruit. I don't have a grapefruit in front of me. Lime. So, but it's just, we've all had flavored sparkling water. This is different. And it's why they're kicking ass, to be honest. It's non-GMO. Wow. I think I had too many Waterloos. Non-GMO. It's Whole30 approved, free of calories, sodium, sugar, and artificial sweeteners. None of that. For the benefit of their fans and their environment, it's also produced in aluminum cans made with BPA-free liners. I'm just telling, nobody does that. Just talked about my favorite flavors. They got a new lemon lime coming out. I also heard the other day from Sean, the founder, that they are hearing so many stories from parents that are trying to wean their kids off soft drinks. So, my kids will always, can I have a Sprite? Can I have a Sprite? Can I have a Sprite? And then they'll do the end around, ask me. And then if I say, I don't know, or no, they'll go ask their mom. You know what it's like. They're getting all these stories of these parents saying our kids are drinking. They're cool with black cherry, or they're cool with the new lemon lime. Unbelievable. Available all across the U.S. Whole Foods, Target, probably your local grocery store. It's whatever you're drinking that's a flavored sparkling water. I'm not even going to name the other ones because we know what we're talking about. We know what they are. This is a game changer. Waterloo, Austin. I mean, by the way, too, last thing I'll say, for just a little factoid. Waterloo was the original name of Austin, Texas. Before it was the capital, it was Waterloo, Texas. And when they made it the capital, they all looked around, the founding fathers of Texas, and said, I don't know about the name. Let's come up with another name. Let's find a war hero. So they named it Austin, Texas. But the original name of that great city was Waterloo, Texas. But now the name is back and the brand is back. Black cherry. So before we get to 2003, I just want to, it was brought to my attention today. I was on a bike. I was having a perfectly good bike ride. It was brought to my attention that another media outlet is recovering older tours, past vintages, and dubbing it the Ultimate Tour. And I said, is this they said, are you following the Ultimate Tour? And I said, is that the Zwift thing? I said, no, it's not on Zwift. I said, oh, what is that? And they started to tell me what. I said, oh, they're covering old tours. And I'm like, oh, sure. Like when Enderine won the fifth, or maybe some Pantani or Ulrich, and, maybe even the Blue Train. No. So to our listeners and viewers, just know that we know that you might have a dog. Whose dog is that? Just know that we know that you have a memory. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, we appreciate that you have a memory, and we appreciate that you're here. George, have you followed any of this? Just don't be a wimp.
I actually happen to be on one of them. I thought that's where you were going. I thought you were getting ready to yell
Excuse
at me.
I had not even heard of this.
Never mind. Moving along. Golf. We can fast forward. Yep, I was on one of them.
But I cannot, and I'm not angling or posturing or advocating to be on TV. I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is people have memories. Am I JB? Come on, somebody back me up, JB. Right?
Well,
yeah.
I don't really see your point. Where they're covering past tours. Maybe they're going to get to one of those tours.
Oh.
Question. I don't know, but the one I talked about was 2008.
I mean, I sent you guys that article earlier that described it as one of the best tours ever.
Which one?
Well,
03.
Hey guys, by the way, isn't that why we're here right now? This is what we're doing.
All right. Well, if this might, if you guys don't like, well, then JB can cut this out. The members can hear it. We'll let them tell us if we should keep this in here. But I don't know. That's enough. Should we jump in, or should we talk a little bit about here? Can I just say one thing actually right quick about 2003? Because it was a tough year, but and Johan, you can back me up here too. We knew it was going to be a tough year. Like I had the big crash in the Dauphiné that was probably, aside from the broken collarbone, was the worst crash that I had ever had. I should not have continued in the Dauphiné. We had the leader's jersey. I got caught in this little ego thing, and I was like, no, I can't stop. I have to win. I don't want to give somebody else the jersey. And I continued on, and it killed me. It just killed me to continue on. And as the prep for the tour, it was terrible.
When really the Dauphiné should have been just treated as training prep, right?
Yeah, just a training race.
And you just had to win it.
Johan, you remember that? I mean, Johan was probably saying, just go home.
No, I do remember. And, of course, the Dauphiné was always an important race, but at that point, you had already won 4. So it was not as we had to prove anything. And the best decision would have been to go home. But yeah, you and I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I also like to win, and so when I saw that you could go on, I didn't push you to abandon, that's for sure. But it was just a year that everything was off, I mean, it didn't go as we expected. Everything, I mean, you had some results, but it cost a lot more energy. And yeah, if you look back on, that crash and then the energy you spent to kind of follow Mayo, because Mayo was flying and he was attacking every single bridge, basically. So you spend a lot of energy there, and then I think just before the tour you got a stomach bug or something also, and so you actually came to the Tour de France kind of a little bit empty and with not a lot of confidence. That's I think we lacked a little bit of confidence because the real strong performances had not been there,
Right.
So it was the most I've ever been impressed with you at a Tour de France. At that point, you had won 4. You were dominating all 4 of those. You came in, not in the same form you had been in the past, but you fought through it. I mean, in particular, we're not going to talk about it today, but that time trial when Ulrich beat you by almost 1 minute and 40 seconds. The next day, I remember telling you, man, I had never been as impressed as I was with you that day of the time trial, and you looked at me like I was crazy. My point was that, like, most people would have lost 10 minutes. But, I mean, you fought like a dog, suffered like a dog, after hadn't won so many tours before that was by far the most impressed I had ever seen you dig deep through a challenging time.
No, I agree, George. I mean, Lance gave you some shit before because you said it was the best memory. For me, it's actually, I'm not going to say it's the best memory because, I had a lot of sleepless nights. I was very nervous. There was a lot of tension. But looking back on it, I think it's probably his best performance. I mean, he really was fighting for it, because if you look at the overall Tour de France, there were probably 2 or maybe 3 riders who were better during the whole tour. But yet, we had a strong team, and then Lance had the experience and, made some decisions certain times where others kind of were, very confused that they hadn't been used to doing that and seeing Lance weaker. And then, of course, the determination of that one particular stage on Les Ardennes of, okay, this is now or never, So I think it has probably the most merit in all of the victories. On my list at least.
Yeah, I can see all that. I mean, I was all right. You guys, but y'all stop making me feel bad. You're saying I was grumpy, and y'all are saying all these nice things about me, and so I appreciate it. Okay, so
I want to ask you guys this before we roll into it, because you talked in the last two shows about all the yeah buts, and you guys always performed well with a chip on your shoulder, right? Now, you're the big dogs, right? Not only that, in the first show we did from '99, you guys said you had no clue what was going on back in the U.S. Now the U.S. is whipped into a frenzy. And they're big Lance and George fans and big Postal fans and all of it. So just kind of share with us what that felt like. It wasn't a yeah but year anymore. And back home, everyone is expecting, the win again.
For me, I'll jump in. And for me, it was personally super exhilarating. It was exciting. Like I said, every day we went to bed not knowing what was going to happen the next day. We knew that the team was performing well. Like I said earlier, we had won the team time trial by 30 seconds. We had done an awesome job in protecting Lance. But I mean, it was to the wire every day. On that stage that we're about to watch, Lose Ardenne, the top three were separated by 18 seconds, which is kind of unheard of at the Tour de France, second week of the Tour de France. So it could not have been a more exciting tour and stressful, like Johan said. But it was super motivating and exhilarating to wake up in the morning knowing that we had to play a major role in arguably bigger than ever in getting Lance to the top step of the podium.
Yeah. And you know what? And by the time also, I guess if we start from '99, we had our special way of planning the season and working. And by then, after 4 victories, some teams had already started to copy a little bit. So, the competition was actually getting a lot better. They were more focused on the tour and they were more kind of, copying our system a little bit. And and that year, I think also, our main rival, which had always been Jan Ullrich, was stronger than ever. He had never been that strong as that year. He was prepared from the beginning of the season. It wasn't overweight at the start of the season. And, the only hiccup they had some problems with the team and had to change the sponsor. But, he was, looking back at those images, that he was super skinny and basically, I think he has been, that was probably the best Jan Ullrich we've ever seen. And so, combine that with Lance being a little off that year in that Tour de France, it was definitely a hard task to win.
Well, and you'll see, it's just the we talk about cycling and luck all the time. So much of this footage you're going to see, especially the crash that sort of people still always talk about. And when you watch it unfold and Beloki crash, as you watch this, just watch, think about where I went into that field and rewind just 5 seconds, 2 seconds, and imagine if the crash was there. You can't get in. Just watch where I go in the field. It's as if somebody has placed that little entryway or dirt driveway into the field for the farmer. If it's 50 feet before or 50 feet after, none of this happens. You talk about, it's crazy lucky. So we'll start with that. We'll start with the stage into gap.
Let's roll the video.
As I watch this footage, and Johan, you touched on it, just being, and let's just quote unquote off. Like I watch this and I'm like, something's not right. I know what it looks like and feels like to pedal circles. And I watch this and I'm like, it was work. If you're totally on form, that right there, look at that. Everything about that feels like work.
But still that, I remember that day, during the stage already, you said, okay, the legs feel better, because it was every day. It was like, for me also in the car waiting, how does he feel, So here, on this last climb, all the teammates are gone and Vinokurov had attacked. He was, I think he was in 3rd or 4th in GC. So basically, you had no other choice than to go. And also, we all knew that it was a dangerous downhill, so better be in front for the downhill. So I do remember that day that you started. You had a better feeling. The pedaling looked better, but still, nothing compared to what it's supposed to be.
in this part of the world is, especially obviously in summer, is always hot. It's just this is one of the hottest parts of France.
And think about this stage. I mean, that climb is, I think it's a category 2 climb, and there you're only seeing the top GC leaders on the team. That means that stage was incredibly hard.
No, the climb is uneventful. It's just up and down all day. Definitely the heat of the day. But start to look at the road. I mean, all this, this is it's an old road. It's not been maintained that well, and it has these pockets of tar, these places of tar that were. It sounds crazy. I mean, I guess when we were kids in Texas, we had this, but the road was boiling. The tar was boiling up in the road, and you could ride over patches and you'd feel it grab your tires, right? If you're going straight, which is no big deal. Unfortunately, we're about to see what happens when it grabs your tire when you're turning.
Yeah. So this is Beloki leading you, and then it's Jaimar Zubeldia, I think, or Mayo.
I know over the top Mayo was there, but I know Zubeldia was there nearby.
They were both there.
And Zubeldia, which of course came on Radio Shack with us, and what a class guy, absolute A+, total gentleman. Raced up until not that long ago, right, Johan?
Yeah, 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Who's got the dog?
It's a little dog. It's downstairs in my house.
Wow. Could we have him fed or petted or something? Anyways, here we go.
So, Lance, it was interesting there that you and Joseba were doing so much work together. Just, I guess you were both a little bit worried about Vinokurov.
Yeah, I mean, as you watch it now, you shouldn't worry, right? You should give if he gets 10, whatever the top, he had like 10 seconds. So if he has 10 seconds or 20 seconds, I mean, hindsight's perfect, but
no, but it's also a matter of, if you do the little bit of work, you stay in the front, you stay in the first positions.
Of course. Yeah. It's and look, what we're about to witness and what happens to Joseba, that could have happened to anybody. That could have happened to me. That could have happened to Jan. Anybody, Tyler, anybody in this front group could have got that caught. The tire caught, and I don't care who you are, you cannot save this. And what you'll witness is what they call a high side. There is no saving this crash. I don't care who you are, and it's we'll ask Joseba when he comes on. But this is one of the most horrific things that I've ever seen, and certainly and it happened so fast. People credited me for finding that field. Are you kidding me? I was like, shit, I got to get out of the way.
There we go.
Here we go. Right here. Boom. Look at that. Just right there where the cop is standing, 10 feet before that, 10 feet after that, I'm in a ditch. Instead, it was like fate. I ended up in that field. And you saw Zubeldia started to go in the field and stopped. He's like, where's the head? I'm not going in the field. But this
has got to be one of the most watched moments in pro cycling Tour de France history. This and maybe Froome running up Mont Ventoux.
Watch this. Watch this. So then watch behind me. Watch Zubeldia. So there's the terrible crash. Here I make that. Here comes Zubeldia. So he stops. He's like, I'm not going in there. And I just kept going. And I remember going through this field, and it was these dried out corn stalks, and it was just crunching below me. And I'm like, I'm never getting out of here. Both wheels are going to flat. And I'm watching the effects of this. I mean, by the way.
It's Acevedo. And this guy here, actually, it's funny. The first guy who was there, that's Luc Meersman. Luc Meersman, who was working for us. And he was on that spot to warn us that it was a very dangerous corner.
And I made it. And this is back. Of course, back on the course.
Did it ever occur to you that it didn't seem like it, that I need to turn around or I'm going to get penalized?
Never. No. No, that was not what I was ever thinking. No.
Well, I remember watching it live. The discussion on television was, technically it could have been penalized, but he didn't gain an advantage. So
even as I watched it, we have the volume down, but as I watched it, Paul Sherwin said, I hope they don't penalize him. Which I was like, what? Anybody want to go? I should have got a time bonus. Honestly.
Well, not to mention, you almost got run over by the train of cyclists just getting back on the street.
I wasn't thinking about that. Once I got to the other side, I said, oh my God, I'm going to have to get off the bike. And I just got off and jumped. There's Jorg Akshka as well. Manolo Sainz, the director, really shows the compassion and the empathy of Jose Acevedo. He was devastated, right? He ended up being our teammate, very loyal teammate. But he was crushed to witness what he witnessed. Today's show also brought to you by Oura. This is another brand that we're really proud to support over at Next Ventures, that is. Check it out at auraring.com. So many data points. And we've established that, I mean, I'm getting better at a lot of things. Certainly sleep. I'm getting better. I'm catching up to George. My respiratory rate is much better than George's. I know that because of the Oura Ring. But whether it's my readiness score, my activity score, my sleep score, I slept like a rock last night. It's so great to wake up and see that.
The respiratory rate?
No, we'll get there.
Something to shoot for.
We'll get there. So you can shoot for. They just announced this partnership with, I'm going to say two things. They just announced the partnership with the NBA, which as the NBA rolls out in the bubble, all players, coaches, staff members will have the ring. Their ability to track body temp, sleep cycles, all of these things that really sort of predict the onset of COVID or any other illness, pretty spectacular. Now, what I would love to see is as if you think about rolling out the NBA in a bubble, if you think about the Tour de France, which we're all assuming is going to happen in September, that's not a bubble. That is a circus, right? So what better place to test these critical data points, body temp, sleep cycles, readiness, et cetera, than the Tour de France? The amount of, whether or not they want to believe it or not, they're going to come in contact with so many people. And I don't think, and Johan, you talked about this the other day, it's not going to go away. We're going to see yet another spike in Western Europe. So I'd love to see the ring integrated into the tour. But anyhow, that's just me. Go to auraring.com, check it out, and let us know what your respiratory rate is. It's probably better than George's. Last one of the day, we got Ventum. This is right over here over my left shoulder. This thing's a dang rocket ship. I've just been loving this. The other thing, people are like, where's the cable? There's no cable. You don't see a cable on this bike. It's just everything's hidden, fast, light. The official global bike partner of the Ironman, which again, another amazing event that's been postponed. We're talking about Kona being not in October, but being in February. And even then, I think that's a stretch. 30-day money-back guarantee, like a lot of our supporters on the show. You don't like it? Send it back. Get your money back. Lifetime warranty on all frames. Financing options available in North America, as well as trade-in options. 20% off for our listeners. Go to ventumracing.com/themove and also register to win the exact frame. Maybe not, you can pick your size, but it's going to look just like that. Got all the WeDo stuff, got the icons. Go to ventumracing.com/themove. Johan, we got our special guest for the day.
We got Joseba on. Joseba, nos escucha. Joseba, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Hola. ¿Cómo estáis? Muy bien, gracias.
Such a nice guy. Look, you can already tell this is a nice guy. Such a nice guy.
Okay,
Joseba.
now
Gracias, Johan. Gracias thank you for being here.
Yeah, gracias por estar con nosotros.
Sí.
Un placer. Un placer.
Sí. Joseba, entonces, bueno, estábamos hablando de esta famosa caída, ¿no? Que ha hecho la vuelta del mundo, las imágenes. Y antes de hablar un poco de la caída, si no recuerdo mal, en el Tour anterior y en el anterior, terminaste tercero y segundo, ¿no?
Sí.
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 Sí. Bueno, entonces era un Tour que obviamente empezamos con muchísima motivación y con ganas y idea de intentar ganarlo.
Teníamos ganas de luchar contra vosotros. Teníamos ganas de hacer una bonita carrera. Yo creo que fueron años para mí bueno, sabéis bien que el primer año con Festina fue una total sorpresa porque nosotros íbamos con Ángel Casero y con Christophe Moreau a intentar estar delante en el tour y, bueno, pues, circunstancias de la vida. En mi primer tour pues estuve ahí. Siempre lejos de vosotros, las cosas como son, pero bueno, pues pude estar pues, en el podio tanto 2000, 2001 y 2002, pues en ese peldaño que, bueno, al no estar Ulrich, pues yo pensaba que quizás lo iba a tener un poquito más fácil, pero la aparición de Runsas pues me lo puso muy, muy complicado, ¿no? Pero bueno, esa fue mi vida en el Tour.
Sí, sí, pero bueno, yo sé que en el equipo que estabas y en el director que tenías, y estoy seguro que ibais con un plan para ganar. Conozco Manolo y cómo piensa y tiene siempre muchísima fe en sus ciclistas, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, era un tour súper importante para ti y mira, esta etapa un poco de transición, ¿no? Que en teoría no tenía que pasar nada. Pasó eso, ¿no? Acabamos de ver las imágenes y bueno, cada vez que lo vemos, pues uno no puede hacer otra cosa que sentirte súper mal por ti, ¿no? Porque ahí se te acabó tu sueño y quizás también un poco tu carrera, ¿no? Corrígeme si me equivoco, pero cuéntanos un poquito lo que tú recuerdas, cómo pasó la caída y qué es lo que significó para ti, tanto en el Tour como en tu vida.
Bueno, yo creo que la caída en sí, al final, yo la recuerdo exactamente igual que la recuerda todo el mundo, porque yo creo que fue un momento muy bonito de la carrera, porque, como bien dices, era una etapa que quizás no era una etapa determinante, pero sí una etapa complicada, ¿no? Y yo creo que sobre todo ese salto de Vino Kurov, hizo que pues, tuviésemos que coger velocidad en el descenso. Yo creo que también mi confianza me llevó un poco a error y yo nunca había sido un hombre que bajaba bien, pero bueno, me atreví a hacerlo y ya está. Y a partir de ahí, pues sí, fue una caída que yo creo que por suerte solo ocurrió eso. Y lo digo por suerte porque Lance pudo salir bien hacia adelante. Tú te caes, pero también tiras a un corredor pues al final como decimos aquí, es una putada. Y en este caso, pues mira, me caí yo solo, me hice mucho daño. Es verdad que ahí se terminó mi carrera deportiva. Hoy es el día que todavía tengo problemas con la pierna, pero bueno, estoy contento porque bueno, luché por algo que en mi vida lo tenía claro desde que era niño, que es el intentar ser ciclista profesional en el Tour de Francia. Y ya está, y muy orgulloso de mi carrera.
Ya. Bueno, nada, tú eras, digamos, en estos años eras un rival para nosotros muy peligroso, ¿no? Además, estabas en un equipo siempre con muchas ganas de luchar, un equipo muy fuerte que hasta incluso nos ganasteis en alguna contrarreloj por equipos. Y bueno, también, bueno, estamos todos tristes, por supuesto, por ver esto y estas imágenes de nuevo. Pero bueno, hemos querido recordarlo porque era un momento muy significativo, ¿no? Y bueno, también otra cosa que quería preguntarte sobre, ya lo hablamos tú y yo por teléfono, sobre el rol de José Acevedo este día, ¿no? Que estaba ahí contigo y hacía un poco como de ángel guardiano, ¿no?
Bueno, José, aparte de ser mi compañero de habitación, era mi persona de máxima confianza en carrera. Y bueno, yo siempre lo digo y ahora en un libro que voy a sacar, yo creo que para noviembre, hablando entre otras cosas de la caída, para mí José Acevedo se convirtió en mi madre, ¿no? Porque en ese momento de la caída yo tenía mucho dolor, pero no me sentí solo porque estaba José conmigo. Siempre digo que ha sido el momento más bonito de mi carrera deportiva. ¿Y por qué? Pues porque, bueno, te sientes querido por tu compañero de habitación. Él, sabéis vosotros muy bien, porque el año siguiente ya estuvo con vosotros en el equipo y le conocéis. Era una persona fiel y una persona que a mí me ayudó muchísimo en mi carrera y bueno, pues yo creo que de los momentos malos se sacan los momentos, de los malos se sacan también los momentos buenos, ¿no? Y en ese sentido yo a José, como al resto de mis compañeros, tanto a Jaxe también, ¿no? Que ahí estaba conmigo, pero sobre todo a José, que bueno, como digo, y a la gente que ha leído un poco algunas letras, bueno, hablo de José Acevedo, que eso, ¿no? En ese momento era mi madre, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, estoy muy orgulloso de aquel momento, sí.
Johan, and I could follow a little bit of what you guys were saying in Spanish, but and maybe you already asked him this, so if you did, then excuse me. But my question is, when he crashed, when Joseba crashed, did he know how serious that ultimately would be for not just for, obviously for the tour he knew, but for that tour, but for his career? I mean, did he have that realization at the moment?
¿Has entendido, Joseba?
Termíname. La última parte no.
Sí, no, mira, que dice que Lance pregunta que en el momento que tú te caíste, si en este momento mismo tú te diste cuenta de lo serio que era la caída para este momento, pero también para el resto de tu carrera.
Bueno, para mi carrera, en ese momento yo sabía que estaba roto. Yo creo que eso, bueno, yo por suerte tengo las clavículas bien, pero cuando un ciclista se cae, yo creo que enseguida sabe si se ha roto o no se ha roto. Y yo sabía que estaba roto. No sabía que estaba tanto. Pero no solo por el dolor, era mi percepción. Mi carrera no. Mi carrera, pues yo creo que me tuve que dar cuenta después, cuando vi la gravedad, cuando después en el hospital me hicieron la valoración y vi dónde tenía la cadera pues muy arriba subida. La otra, bueno, cosas que al final son valoraciones que, bueno, pues lo tienes que ir meditando, ¿no? Y poco a poco tienes que ir tragando, pero sí, que me había hecho daño y que allí no... Tampoco pensaba en la carrera, Johan. No pensaba en mi casa. O sea, sí, no pensaba en seguir. No pensé en seguir.
Joseba, Johan, ¿puedo preguntar una pregunta?
Sí.
Saludos, Joseba. Siempre me encanta verte otra vez de nuevo. Siempre tenía mucho respeto por ti. Y yo creo que una pregunta interesante, porque los que están escuchando, sería, ¿cuál es tu opinión, ya que has vivido una caída tan grave? ¿Tú crees que Chris Froome puede volver a los altos niveles de ciclismo?
Sinceramente, George, yo me encantaría que Chris Froome volviese al máximo en el Tour de Francia, pero yo lo veo muy complicado. Lo veo muy complicado porque creo que él solamente va a volver a lo más alto si está capacitado. Y yo creo que ahora mismo su lesión es muy grave. Recuperarse de esa lesión no es fácil. Creo que además todo este tiempo que hemos estado parados en todo el mundo sin podernos mover, sin poder entrenar en condiciones, creo que no ha sido bueno para él porque no va a tener va a tener mucha falta de competición. Y después nos tenemos que remontar también al año 2018, donde ya en las grandes cimas gente como Roglic, gente como Dumoulin ya estaban peleando con él, ¿no? Gente joven, gente que venía. Y vosotros sabéis bien, como lo sabe también él, que 3 semanas a full es muy complicado. Y luego la cabeza va a ver miedo, va a sentir respeto en el pelotón y no sé. Y además luego, pues bueno, si participa con el Team Ineos, pues tiene 2 corredores que también saben lo que es ganar el Tour de Francia. No lo tiene fácil Chris Froome, aunque a mí personalmente me gustaría que le diese la vuelta a la lesión y que fuese otra vez una persona de los top, sobre todo para ser un referente de cómo recuperar de cosas malas que tenemos en la vida.
Go on, just last thing, make sure Joseba, and you can translate this, but first of all, thank you. And thank you, Joseba, for being here. You were always, I tell people all the time, and there's really only 2 guys, or maybe 3, that I had to create these rivalries. Do you hear what he said about me? What he did? I'm going to crush that guy. I could never, Joseba was always so classy. I could never make that up in my head. Jan was so classy. I couldn't make it up in my head. And Basso was so classy. Everybody else, I wanted to crush these fools. But Joseba was always a class guy, and to this day. And so it was a fun rivalry. It was fun competing. And I always had immense respect for him on and off the bike.
Yeah. Okay. I'll translate that later for him.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're gonna little detail. Joseba, veo un pequeño detalle ahí, que tienes una foto muy bonita ahí detrás, que estás en el podium con Lance y con Rumsas, ¿no?
Sí, aquí, bueno, está con Lance y con Ulrich tengo detrás, tengo con Rumsas también. Bueno, tengo algunas cosas.
Vale. Y los leones amarillos.
Los leones y los trofeos, bueno, es un poco mi zona del tour en casa, ¿no? Sí.
Muy bien. Pues nada, Joseba, oye, no te vamos a coger más tiempo. Muchísimas gracias por tu intervención, muy apreciado, y esperemos hasta pronto y que todo te vaya muy bien en tu vida.
Muy bien, que vaya bien. Un saludo y gracias a vosotros. Y a ver si la siguiente vez ya me puedo soltar más en inglés, que no me atrevo.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Gracias.
Gracias. Adiós.
Well, that was special. I mean, how did you organize that for us?
Very nice of Joseba to join us and to talk so much in detail. No, I just it was basically we thought about it yesterday. I gave him a call and he said, "Yeah, fine." Certain people in cycling, a lot of our old rivals, they've lived also the best moments of their lives together with us, and maintained a good relationship with him. He's a super nice guy. Really like him.
Most people say yes. Most people say yes to Johan.
I was particularly intrigued by his response about what he thought about Chris Froome. I mean, he lived pretty much the same moments that Chris Froome has lived, and we're all wondering where he's going to be out. So I think his opinion is pretty strong.
Yeah. I'm gonna. It's a very, very bold prediction, but I'm gonna do one prediction. I think that Chris Froome is not going to be at the start of the Tour de France.
I mean, you've said some crazy things. That is the least craziest thing you've ever said.
Okay, well.
Johan, that's like saying the world is round.
Come on.
He's leaving the team. Are they going to bring 4 leaders to the Tour?
Well, I mean, if I'm Brailsford, I'm not taking Chris Froome to the Tour de France.
Of course you're not.
No.
Of course,
guys. We're living in a world of politics. It's Chris Froome. He's won it. I don't know how many times. I disagree. I think he'll be there. And from what I'm hearing, he's riding quite well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, but maybe a better question. And I actually thought about this last night after we wrapped, or the other day after we wrapped. But Johan, if you had to put, and this is really for the listener, viewer, the member. If you had to put a percentage on what are the chances that we actually have a tour, right? We've got, 6 weeks, call it 5-6 weeks until what would you say the chances are being in Europe, seeing where this pandemic is popping up or subsiding or spiking or whatever? What are the chances?
I'm still very optimistic it's going to happen.
Okay.
I say 80%.
You said on the last show, Johan said, your nephew was racing. There was some racing happening.
No, but we'll have to see. This is just starting now. So we'll have to see what it does.
Yeah.
There's going to be race in France. There's no races yet, and so we're going to have to see the effect of the gatherings again, in 5-6 weeks, only then we're going to be able to say. It's not the Tour de France who's going to decide if there will be a Tour de France or not. It's not them who's going to decide.
I agree with that. But I do think that they have, obviously the Tour can't override public health policy and the policy of the government. But if any sporting event in that country has any political influence, sway, whatever, it is the Tour. And I think everybody collectively agrees, and nobody's trying to put anybody at risk, but we all, as stakeholders in the sport, we collectively agree that it kind of has to happen. I mean, this sport is already on life support. Without a tour, it could be devastating. So all that, and again, back to my point of this rolling circus, how can we be as precautionary and preventative as possible? with the health of the riders, the staff, the fans, the media, everybody, right? And so I'm glad you said 80%. I thought you'd say 50-50.
At this point, I should say 80, but, as we know, this can change every week or every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
It's also it's the most difficult event to control. If you would say, okay, Roland Garros, okay, you can say we can control this environment. There's no way of controlling a circus at the Tour de France. You can't, so I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, that was, man, that's a big day. I look back, I know you guys were big, and I'm being dead serious and honest now. You guys, and I appreciate all the kind words. I hated that year. It was such a struggle. The others, and not to minimize them or to sound arrogant, but they were cruisy. And this one, boy, was just riding through mud every day. And so,
well, having gone through the footage that we're going to share on in the next episode, it's incredible. I mean, it's great to relive it, to hear the names, to see the faces, and to remember how close that year was. And as you said at the beginning of the show, how fit Jan was.
Yeah.
It was exciting back home, and I think everyone's going to love reliving that.
Why don't we get Jan on?
Would be good. How's his English?
Yeah, it's good enough. Your German's good.
Ja, mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut mehr. Ich spreche jetzt fast nie und so.
Seine Deutsch ist sehr gut, Johann.
I forgot JB,
yeah.
The German. Okay.
Mein Deutsch ist scheiße.
It would be nice to have Jan on.
Yeah, let me work on that. Okay.
Yeah, I will not ask Rudy Pevenage. That's clear.
No, we don't need to talk to Rudy. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to PowerDot, again, doing an extraordinary job on their own. Really honored to be partners with them on this Strava challenge, just kicking butt. Thanks to Ventum. Thanks to Roca. Thanks to Oura. Thanks to everybody for supporting. Thanks for the members for tuning in. Hopefully this live shit's not too messy for y'all, but hey, this is what it is, right? I mean, this is us, so to speak. So we'll catch y'all next time.